Welcome to Shatter Our Souls with Novaria. We are bringing you Need for Speed Most Wanted. The probably one of the greatest games released in 2005, if I'm being honest.
How's your car running?
Paper. I need your pink slip. He's dangerous. Be careful. He'll swat paint if he has to.
First, I'm gonna take your ride, then I'm gonna take your girl. Get ready for that.
Stay focused. He's rolling on a lot of power, so wait for him to shift first.
But be it as it may, back in 2005, these were the graphics, and they were absolutely phenomenal. Now, I'm not going to sit here and talk about nostalgia, because today we are going to be attempting something that I think is possible, but I'm not entirely certain. Now, in the early Need for Speed games, it was known that you could beat the game with almost any car. And aside from the prologue, that is really well what I think is possible. So, going through the prologue here, we're going to kind of treat it as just standard everyday stuff and absolutely demolish. Now, what brought this to mind was actually a recently getting back in touch with actually the individual who owned this game, this exact copy of the game, before I did. Effectively,
Hey, there's something wrong with your ride.
um,
Left a huge oil slick at the start line. You have to end
this
the
is
race
partially
fast.
due to their influence. And partially due to the fact that after almost 20 years playing the game, I'm almost done beating it for once. So I figured, why not see what we can do from here?
Oh man, did you pick the wrong street to run on? This, this is a nice car. Gauges, shifter, wheel? Is this all for show or is there something more I should know about?
I'd like to take a little peek under the hood.
Good idea. Let me tell you what's about to happen. We're gonna take your car, tear it apart, and see if it's street legal. You know, I'd lay odds that it ain't. Get a record out here.
Looks like your racing days are over.
Let me let you in on a little secret. Street racing in Rockport is finished. I've got a beautiful little surprise that's gonna tear you guys apart from the inside out. Now get out of the car.
Attention Patrol Division. Units are in a high-speed pursuit of multiple vehicles, aggressively evading custody. Units in the area directed to clear and head up to provide cover.
Next time, you won't be so lucky.
Sergeant Cross.
Nice pinstripe.
Not exactly the nicest guy out there, but his mentality is all about being the one who shuts down these big races and the racers themselves. Personally, it is what it is. I am just kind of in it for the ride right now. Now, I suppose I need to actually sit down and talk about what it is that I'm aiming for this mini series on the channel, sorry. And the short version is the one of the four cars you start out with, that being the Volkswagen Golf GTI, the Fiat Punto, the Cobalt SS, and our car of choice, the Lexus LS 300, are, well, they're not exactly the greatest vehicles in the game. The Lexus being one that is known to top out very easily. Now, for some vehicles, this would be a beautiful thing. Topping out some cars at 170 mile per hour would be absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, not even nitrous or a downhill slide will top this thing out faster, or will put it faster than its base statement. Thus, we go into the situation of, wow, I'm a bad driver today. I need to stop talking on the phone while I'm doing this. um, Point being, with it being one of the weaker cars in the game, it's going to provide the best challenge for the channel itself. But where does that challenge end up going? What does it win us in the end? Not a whole
Did I
lot.
tell you, Razor, he shadowed me. I couldn't figure out. Another bolt-on Wonder Boy looking to get smoked. Why don't we save you the grief and peel those
We only
pods
have
right
one mission.
now?
Bolt on or not, that ride is hot.
We must beat Razor.
Faster than anything here.
You obviously don't know your cars, sweetheart.
I know your ride doesn't have a chance.
My 60-footer, quarter mile, whatever you want to throw on the table, smokes anything here, including this pump gas kit car.
Well, then where's your punk money then?
$5 grand. $5 grand. Says my boy'll smoke this clown.
What's your boy have to do with this?
I ain't racing this nobody. And I ain't taking orders from some chick who just rolled onto the scene.
Yeah. This here is the number 15 guy on the blacklist. You got a lot of rep to earn before you get to run with him.
Thanks for the update. Are we doing this or what?
I got it.
Why don't we make it 10 grand?
Oh, yeah, you want to amp this up? Let's do it right. Yeah. Give me the police. We got a couple of guys about to street race down here at the shipyards. You better send the cops right away. Maybe an ambulance, too. When he's through with you, I never want to see your face again.
Wow. And we got to beat Bull, blacklist number 3. No, 2 with the SLR McLaren, which I think is kind of funny because once again, doesn't really pose much of a challenge to at this point in time. Mind you, it's not really intended to pose much of a challenge right now. It's just kind of to show off, show what we're up against in the future,
We have a code 6
and to
suspect attempting to
set
evade
up the
police.
storyline
Driver
of the
has
game in and of
aggressively
itself.
engaged members to avoid custody.
Now, being as nostalgic as I am, I gotta say that this is probably one of the
Copy,
best
3 Delta
vehicles that
16.
you get in the entire
Detailing units
series.
now.
The BMW GT or M3 GTR is definitely got a little bit of a storied history with the franchise. Anywho, now that it's more or less just leaving him in the dust, I originally thought about doing this as kind of a completion type challenge where I take every single car, put them on the same track, and see what the heck happens. However, throwing every car in the game on the same tracks and expecting each of them to run differently, and some do better than others and whatnot, you're going to end up with circumstances where certain cars do really well and certain ones do really poorly. And that is mostly due to a matter of how you as the player or would handle the track, handle the race in and of itself. Thus, I didn't really think of it as the appropriate challenge, given that there are people out there who are doing Nuzlocks where if they lose a race or if they lose a race in any way, shape, or form, they lose their car and they're unable to get it back. Those are a lot higher stakes than what I have in mind, because given that the game has been out for 20 years, people are uh, there are multiple people who have videos and that kind of stuff on this game. Thus, my aim is more provincial. I want to simply beat the game and show off a bit of the customization, and have a grand old time doing it. Now, in this race, we're facing off against Raj. Raj was in the black car with the red vinyls on the side. He is more like a confidant for the entire game, acting as a liaison of sorts between you and the blacklist. Um, Ultimately, his influence is rather minor overall. He's kind of there, but not really. The goal of him being there is more so just to show off, hey, in this first week in Rockport, you managed to make a couple friends who are going to help you out with all sorts of stuff down the line. But
Sure you watch your back with these guys, all right? See you around.
What's up, poser? I'm glad you're putting it down out there. I really am, because I can't wait to get a crack at that ride. What? Did anybody tell you? You gotta put your ride on the line to run against a blacklist racer, and that is why people aren't stupid enough to do it. I'll be waiting.
How's your car running?
Papers. You need your pink slip? He's dangerous. Be careful. The SWAT can't if he has to.
First, I'm gonna take your ride, then I'm gonna take your girl. Get ready for that.
Hey, stay focused. He's rolling on a lot of power, so wait for him to shift first.
We need the setup for this. Thus, it's time to take down Razor. So, ultimately, we know what happens in this race. We're winning, everything goes well, and then all of a sudden, we leave an oil slick at the front, or we find out that there was an oil slick left at the start line. The vehicle shuts down, and that's all she wrote, right? But there's more to this than what's on the page, so let's see what goes on here, and whether or not I can actually keep ahead of them. Don't think I've ever had him do a pit maneuver on me before. What I find funny about this race in and of itself is the car that I'm using is supposed to be the fastest in the city, and yet it's topping out at like 115, 120, which is like blacklist number 3 speed, or sorry, blacklist number 12 speeds. So within the first hour and a half of the game, you're already getting vehicles that are faster than what is supposedly the fastest car in the city.
Remaining units, be advised, vehicle west BCB. Blocks should be set up in the surrounding area.
I'll admit the cutscene makes this seem a lot more epic than it actually is playing it. But
You're right. You left a huge oil slick at the start line. You have to end the race fast.
that is the farthest I was ever able to get the car before it dropped. Somewhat disappointing.
Thank you for the ride. I knew you weren't blacklist material. Hey, where's your punk money now?
What happened?
What happened is he's all show and no go.
She's mine now. And I'm gonna ride her like you never could.
Hard and flattered.
Hey, Mia. Sweetheart. The winner's circle's over here. Bus stop's that way, champ.
The UC thought you were the one, but you're mine now.
Hey, where's your fancy ride?
Who cares? He's not gonna need him where he's going. And they're gonna love you in the big house, baby.
Get in. I heard they didn't have enough on you. Guess it's hard to nail you for street racing when you don't have a ride. Razor set you up. He messed with your car. Gets worse. He's number one on the blacklist, and he used your ride to get there. To get back in, you have to become notorious, win races, and build up your bounty. I've hooked you up with a place to lay low in, but first, you gotta get yourself a new ride. Hey Ed, it's Mia. I got a friend coming by. Do me a favor, hook him up? Thanks. I owe you one.
Alrighty. As stated, we have access to 4 cars. We are taking the IS 300. Now, the sucky part about this is we're kind of just stuck with what we got. Now, I'm not going to try to blitz this game and beat every single challenge there is. Completion of the game 100% is, I believe, almost impossible for this car. Almost. I might aim to do that, but we'll see how it happens.
So you found it all right. What do you think? You can store your ride here. Consider it your safe house. You can use it to lie low when your heat gets too high. If you want to take out Razor and get your ride back, you got a lot of work to do. You have to work your way up the blacklist and take out everyone on the way. As far as they're concerned, you're just working to get back into the blacklist. Pick the right event, get enough bounty, and you can challenge a ranked racer. Once they're all out of the way, Razor's all yours. Cool? I'll let you get back to business. I'll call you when the time's right. Later.
Alrighty. So I've got a little bit more time to knock out of this. So we're going to see what we can get into. Now, unfortunately, for the first little bit, we're going to be just dealing with a baseline vehicle. Very suburban type of car. Ultimately, by the end of the game, it's going to look almost indistinguishable from, or almost unrecognizable from what it starts as. Unfortunately, it's going to take a while for the Lexus to get there. Okay. Lexus sits at about 133 mile per hour right now, which isn't a terrible speed, but does leave a lot to be desired. Good news is that it doesn't take long to get far enough in to upgrade the car a fair bit. So it'll take probably 4 or 5 races before we're actually got a half decent looking car. Because this silver is not doing it for me. Seven seconds ahead. And boom. Yeah, give them a little bit of a head start. Just makes things more fair, right? Looks like we got an Audi TT Quattro in this race. He's probably the vehicle to watch out for, albeit I know that the game's physics engine is kind of wonky. So, ironically, I think the Golf GTI ends up being one of like the top 10 vehicles out of 32, which is kind of odd, but be that as it may. Come on. There we go. Yeah, got to get an old beater back up to or fast enough to take down the most notorious racer in the city. Okay. Side note, I will be allowing myself to have more than one vehicle, but all of my vehicles have to effectively be the same car. The reason behind it is because it is ironically less expensive to have multiple vehicles than to reduce your heat by changing up how your vehicle looks on a regular basis.
We have multiple 911 reports of speeding vehicles last seen eastbound on Campus
So
Way. It is
I'm
an area
aiming to
on the
have
severity call. Please clear
anywhere
immediately.
between 5 and 11 cars, all the same, so to speak. But now that the police are involved, let's see what we can get into.
Suspect in view. I'm pulling up on him now.
Come on.
He's taking off. Code 3 chase.
1,500 bucks. So we gotta hit 2 cars, and I gotta take more than 2 minutes and less than 4 minutes to get all of my milestones. Unfortunately, the city police are kind of bad at their job in this. Just a tad. Come on. Let me actually bonk you. First of all, I'm not even driving off the roadway. I am on the road still. Grr. Come on. Okay, now I went off the road. There we go. So we need to get milestone. So in order to get to any of the blacklist racers, you need to complete milestones and races to get to it. Typically it is up to, I believe it's 70 to 80% of the races that you have access to at that time, as well as usually 80 to 90% of the milestones. Milestones range from defeating or completing certain challenges set aside by other racers, like getting away from the police, and others are more simply just beat a top speed through this area. It ends up being rather trivial as far as what the milestones end up being, but it is still something to note as far as what it is to progress in the game.
Officers on the pursuit call. Suspect vehicle was last seen northbound on State Street. Payment is to include immediate area
And the last race before I can actually challenge the boss here. Shouldn't be too hard. Lap knockouts are pretty reasonable most of the time. The race types that we're dealing with are going to dramatically affect how likely our car is going to be able to beat it. Some like the speed trap races, where you and 3 other races travel down a select path, aiming to reach the highest top speed, is going to be the most difficult type of race for this challenge. As I specified earlier, this vehicle has a relatively low top speed. Easy to achieve, but if you can only drive so fast, you can only drive so fast. The second major the second major problem that we're going to be running into are races that are what I'll call marathons. Marathon style races are typically like circuits and lap knockouts. They are designed with long-term driving and play involved. Thus, it's about consistency across numerous laps and numerous attempts. If you mess it up at point A, well, point A might just be all it takes. Generally, sprint races are going to be relatively easy, mostly because they tend to be shorter than your average race in this game. So challenging them multiple times isn't going to be too big of an issue. Drag races are going to be a problem. Once again, high top speed is a necessity. But drag races also have the added benefit of being weird as far as the game as a whole goes, the drag races are considered weird. They are harder in this than almost any other game out there, because if you look at some of the contemporary games at the time, Need for Speed Underground, when you got into a drag race, that was it. You got into a drag race. But most of them had a straight line track. Unfortunately, in Rockport, there is no area that has a straight enough section to be a proper drag race. So you're not only contending with longer track than your typical quarter mile, you're also dealing with traffic, you're dealing with sharp turns, you are dealing with other vehicles and other contenders all going for the same prize. So while contemporary drag races would be like a 10-second ride, in this we're looking at 35 to 40 seconds, regardless of speed. Now, Sonny is our first actual challenge, and he's driving a VW GTI. Unlike the majority of the racers, he isn't all that strong, but his vehicle right now is actually stronger than the vehicle owned by the Blacklist 14 member, ironically. what Sonny does well is circuit races, or um, more longevity-based races. Good acceleration, high handling, that's kind of where he excels. Unfortunately, he put way too much money into the look of his car and not enough into actually driving it. So he's not all that difficult to beat. Which is a good thing because I forgot to upgrade my car at all, so this beast is still stock. But stock or not, it's what we got. One thing I always enjoyed about the physics in this is that the physics that apply to your car change depending on the type of material that you are driving on. If you're driving in midair, you can't turn at all. Or if you're flying through midair, sorry. If you're on a stone patio, it still acts as if you're driving on pavement. If you hit grass, your vehicle's back end suddenly starts sliding out, and your steering goes out from under you. It becomes less consistent because your vehicle is functioning different on that plane. Small detail, but one that would ultimately make a huge, huge difference, or that makes a huge difference towards playing the game itself. But with the first of 2 races down, we're looking to be in good shape. The final race is, if I recall, the first race that we played, but backwards. Which is going to be great for me because I need to upgrade my car soon. But yeah. Anyways, this is a little bit more of a nostalgic piece and one that I'm wanting to go through simply because I enjoy the game. Let me know what you're thinking, or if this is something what you would be interested in a longer running series. Yes, I am going to continue and probably finish this, and some might like it, some might not. Ultimately, my goal for this series is to be more kid friendly because let's be serious here. Swords and everything else that get involved in my other mini series are not great for little humans. Mind you, running into police vehicles and driving like a maniac isn't either, but at least there's a little bit more of a suspension of disbelief here. Anyways, fun fact, today is actually the first time in approximately a month that I've had a chance to record, which gives a little bit of an insight as to how much video I have in backlog. And if I see a spark in views across an entire week or throughout the week, I will be trying to upload more frequently. For now, however, This is kind of the best I got, is about every 3 days. That way I can still keep my day job going. And with that, we've beaten Sonny. Now, typically speaking, when beating a Blacklist member, you get the opportunity to pick 2 cards. Sometimes it's like body kits, upgrades, performance, visual upgrades, that kind of stuff. I always go for the question marks because getting out of jail free, extra money, those all affect your end goals. But we want to get his car as the only one that I'm going to be able to actually keep if I do manage to get the pink slip. Anywho, if you like what you see or are interested in seeing more, feel free to drop in next time. If not, well, let's see if we can find something for you at a later date. Until then, drop a like, leave a subscribe. I'll be sure to get back to you as soon as we can. I always forget how much it costs to upgrade these things. Anywho, we actually have body kits to speak of now. So it looks like we gotta get to Earl. I'm gonna keep my stock kit for now. Right as I can get it. And we do anything to give this thing a little bit of life. Yes. Yes, we can. And with that, we're actually going to change the color back a little bit. It's not beautiful, but it's what we got. Anyways, now that this guy's upgraded and actually has a little bit more power to speak of, we'll catch you next time.